The desert night was heavy, so heavy, in fact, that it felt like the kind of darkness that could swallow you whole, that could wrap its cold, suffocating arms around you and never let go. My name is Elena Martinez. I was 24, fresh out of college, chasing a dream of being a social worker in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I thought I had everything figured out. But the truth is, I didn't know the first thing about being out here, about what waits in the dark, just beyond the reach of the porch light. Javier, my cousin, lived just south of the city near the Isleta Pueblo, a mechanic by trade, a tough guy by nature. But that night, there was something in his eyes. Something wasn't right. I hadn't seen him like that before. We were sitting on the porch of his adobe house, the air dry and cool, the scent of the desert mixing with the faintest trace of salt in the breeze. The stars, so bright up here, felt like they were watching me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was watching too. Something else, lurking just beyond the edge of the shadows. Javier broke the silence, his voice low, as if he was afraid to speak too loudly. "You hear about those dogs going missing?" he asked, his words hanging in the air, heavy with something unsaid. I chuckled, trying to ease the tension. Coyotes, maybe? Strays? I shrugged it off, but Javier didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. His eyes were scanning the dark horizon like he was waiting for something to move, something to appear. "It's not just coyotes, Elena. It's something else." He paused, his voice dropping even lower. Something wrong. I tried to shake it off. He was just being paranoid, right? We'd grown up together after all. Spent summers exploring the arroyos, listening to Abuela's wild tales. Skinwalkers, witches, the Yinaldlushi. They were just stories. Or so I thought. But then, the howl came. Not a coyote, not a wolf, but something in between. A low, guttural noise that seemed to crawl from the very earth itself. A sound that slithered into my bones, into my soul. I froze. I didn't even breathe. Javier's face went ashen. "Don't listen," he whispered, but I couldn't help it. My body moved before I could stop it, my eyes drawn to the darkness just beyond the fence. And that's when I heard it. A voice, soft, almost like a whisper on the wind. My name. Elena. It was Abuela's voice, but she had been dead for 3 years. And that's when I realized, also, I was no longer alone. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I could feel it, the shift in the air. The temperature dropping, the wind stilling, like the earth itself had stopped breathing. And there, in the shadows just beyond the fence, something moved. My heart raced, pounding in my chest so loud I thought Javier could hear it. My eyes strained, but all I saw was darkness, nothing solid, nothing tangible. But the air felt wrong. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to sound steady, but even to me it sounded weak, fragile. "Javi, do you hear that?" He didn't respond immediately. His face was ashen, his eyes wide, scanning the same patch of dark where I was staring. And then he nodded, barely a movement, but it was enough. His jaw clenched and he muttered under his breath, almost to himself, "Not tonight, not this time." And that's when I saw it, a shape. No, not a shape, a distortion. It wasn't like anything I'd seen before. The way the darkness seemed to warp, like the air itself was bending around something that shouldn't be. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet were frozen to the ground. My heart was caught in my throat. There was a whisper then, just the faintest sound, but it made my blood turn to ice. Elena. It was Abuela's voice again, but it wasn't just her voice. The words, it was like they had weight, like they were a thread pulling me toward the dark. Desperately, my heart hammered harder, my breath quickening. "Don't answer it," Javier hissed, grabbing my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. "Don't look, whatever you do, don't look." But it was too late. My eyes, against my will, darted to the wash beyond the fence. The thing in the shadows was taller than anything human, stretching, twisting, its limbs wrong, unnaturally long, bent in ways that made my stomach churn, and then its eyes, God, its eyes, they glowed, a sickly yellow light that made the air around them flicker, like the very night was trying to reject it. It tilted its head, studying me, those eyes locked on mine, unblinking, unwavering. The stillness was suffocating. I felt like I was being pulled into those eyes, drawn into that empty, glowing abyss. "Javi," I managed to choke out, my voice a mere whisper trembling in the silence. He didn't respond. His grip tightened on my arm. He was staring at the shadow now, a look of terror so raw it made me sick to my stomach. He pulled me toward the door, not looking away from the thing outside. And then it happened. The howl again. Louder this time, more guttural, more desperate. It wasn't just a sound, it was a vibration, a pulse in the air that rattled my bones, sending waves of panic through me. It echoed off the walls of the house like it was coming from all around us, like the thing outside was inside, crawling under our skin. "Get inside, now!" Javier's voice was urgent, frantic, but I couldn't move. My body felt like lead, like every part of me was frozen in place. The world outside felt too vast, too consuming, and that voice, Abuela's voice, kept repeating in my mind, calling me, urging me to listen. I could hear the panic in Javier's voice, but it was distant now, like I was underwater, hearing him from far away. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs, my limbs, they wouldn't obey. My eyes were still locked on the shadows beyond the fence, the shape still twisting and warping, getting closer. The air grew thick with dread, and then I felt it, a prickling sensation like fingers brushing across my skin, crawling, pulling me toward the darkness. The moment I stepped inside, the door slammed behind me with a deafening crash. But the scratching didn't stop. No, it got louder, closer, closer. I could hear it against the windows now, the sound of claws dragging across glass, scraping, tapping, like something trying to claw its way in. Javier slammed the chair under the doorknob with shaking hands. His face was pale, but his eyes were wild, desperate. He wasn't looking at me anymore, but at the walls. His body was rigid, his gaze fixed on the adobe walls, and his lips moved as if whispering to himself. "Salt," he muttered, almost like a prayer, his voice barely audible. "We need salt." I didn't ask questions. I didn't have time. I didn't even know why salt would help, but I saw Javier move quickly to the kitchen, scrambling for the small canister we kept in the cabinet. He poured a line of salt across the threshold, his hands trembling. The whole time, that voice kept whispering, "Elena, Elena." And I could hear it echoing, shifting, like it was no longer just one voice. "It's not just a voice," I muttered to myself, though I wasn't sure if I meant to say it out loud or just to comfort myself. "It's not real. It's not..." Javier stopped in his tracks and turned to me, his eyes wide, his lips trembling. "Don't say its name," he warned, his voice cracked with fear. "Don't you say its name aloud, Elena. Never say its name." I felt the cold weight of his warning. Whatever this thing was, whatever it was outside, it wasn't a spirit. It wasn't some figment of our imagination. No, it was something much worse. It was real. The scratching stopped. For a moment, all I could hear was the sound of my own breath, shallow, panicked. But then came something else, something far worse, a sound like wet, gurgling laughter. I recoiled, my heart slamming in my chest as the sound came from just outside the window, the kind of laughter that made your skin crawl, like something was mocking you, mocking your very existence. I didn't dare look through the blinds. My eyes were glued to the walls, my hands clammy with sweat. And that's when I realized something. The scratching, the laughter, it wasn't just from outside. It was coming from everywhere. The walls, the floorboards, the ceiling. I heard it, felt it in my bones. It was inside. It was in the house. I glanced at Javier, his face pale, his jaw tight. He was still holding the gun, but it was no longer comforting. His hands were shaking, too violently for a man who'd been trained to fight in wars. He'd never been afraid of anything before. I could see it in his eyes now, though. Fear. Raw, primal fear. The kind of fear that makes a man question his very existence. I tried to steady myself, but the room felt like it was closing in, the walls narrowing, the ceiling lowering. I could hear the sound of my breath, too loud, too sharp in the silence. The scratching was still there, relentless, like claws dragging against bone. And the air was thick with something I couldn't name, something wrong. "It's inside, Javi. It's already inside." He didn't answer me. He couldn't. His eyes darted to the ceiling, his body frozen in place. He could hear it too. The thing, whatever it was, wasn't just trying to get in. It was already here. I heard it again. Another laugh. It sounded closer this time. I could feel it in my chest, vibrating in the very bones of the house. It was mocking us, playing with us. Slowly, deliberately, like a predator toying with its prey. I couldn't move, couldn't even think straight. It was like I was drowning, the air thick, my chest constricting with every breath. The fear, God, the fear, it was suffocating. "Javier." My voice broke the silence, hoarse, barely a whisper. He didn't look at me. His eyes were locked on the attic hatch, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. I followed his gaze. The hatch. It was rattling, like something, no, someone, was up there, moving around, scratching, clawing at the walls above us. I could feel my pulse in my throat now, the fear like a cold hand clutching my heart. The scratching stopped. For one moment, everything was still. The house felt like it was holding its breath. The silence was deafening. Then came the voice. "Elena." It was my voice, but not really. It was too smooth, too perfect, too wrong. My stomach turned, nausea flooding my system as I realized this wasn't just a sound. It was my own voice, but it was being twisted, turned into something else. Something worse. Javier finally snapped out of his trance, turning to me with wide, frantic eyes. Don't look at it." But I couldn't stop myself. My gaze shot toward the ceiling and I saw it. A shadow, a silhouette, shifting, flickering, like it was made of the darkness itself. It wasn't just moving, it was waiting, watching. The thing, it was mimicking my voice. It knew me. It knew us. Every fear, every secret, every moment we'd ever had, everything we'd ever hidden. It had all of it, like it was carved into its very being. And worse yet, it was using it against us. I could feel the air around me crackle with the weight of its presence. The room felt smaller, suffocating, as if the walls were closing in, pressing me closer to it. Every instinct in me screamed to run, to hide, to do anything but stand there rooted to the spot. But my legs, my body, felt paralyzed. I could feel Javier's breath beside me, shallow and fast. His grip tightened on my wrist, pulling me back toward the door. He was shaking, not from the cold, but from something deeper, something darker. "Javi, what if it's not just here? What if it follows us? What if it always will?" His face twisted with a mixture of fear and resolve, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes, something that had been buried deep, something I wasn't sure I wanted to acknowledge. I saw it then. the terror that lay just beneath the surface, something he was fighting to keep under control. "We don't have a choice, Elena," he whispered harshly, his voice cracking under the weight of the words. "We have to leave. We can't fight it here, not like this." I wanted to argue, to scream at him that running wouldn't help, but I couldn't. My throat was tight, and I was starting to feel like I was drowning in this suffocating fear. The thing outside, the thing in the dark, it had already won, hadn't it? It had already gotten inside of us, into our heads. I heard a noise then, soft at first, like the wind shifting. But it wasn't the wind. It was the sound of something scraping, claws dragging over the floor, slow and deliberate. "It's closer. It's inside the house." Javier spun toward the sound, his hand moving to the shotgun at his side, fingers trembling as they wrapped around the cold metal. The sound continued, steady and relentless, like the creature was taking its time, savoring its hunt. But we didn't have the luxury of time. Without another word, Javier pushed me toward the back door, his footsteps quick, but I didn't hear mine. I was too focused on the scraping. It was getting louder now, filling the room with its sickening rhythm, each scrape like nails against a chalkboard, each one dragging us closer to our doom. I reached the door. Javier was already pushing it open, but I froze. "No, we can't just run. What if it follows us? What if it's in the air we breathe, the dirt we touch? What if we can never get away?" Javier turned, his eyes wild. His face was pale, ghostly, as if the terror had already drained the life from him. "It's already in you, Elena. It's in both of us." I didn't want to believe him. I couldn't. But his words hit harder than any blow could have. A cold, creeping truth seeped into my veins, paralyzing me. It wasn't just chasing us. It wasn't something we could outrun or fight. It was inside us now. And that thought, that realization, was worse than anything else I had faced. "No, you're wrong," I whispered, but even as the words left my lips, I felt the doubt clawing at my insides. The thing wasn't just out there. It was here, in the desert, in this house, and most terrifying of all, it had found a way into me. Javier's hand shook as he placed it on my arm. The touch wasn't comforting, it was desperate, like he was trying to keep both of us from shattering into a million pieces. But we were already breaking. And no matter how fast we ran, no matter how far we went, the thing would always be there, watching, waiting, infecting us with its hunger. "Elena." His voice cracked as he said my name, like he was trying to reach me, trying to pull me out of this suffocating fog of fear. "We have to leave. It's the only chance we've got." But I couldn't move. My legs were locked in place, as though the ground itself had risen up to claim me, like it didn't want me to go. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body was betraying me. Every breath I took felt heavier than the last, and the air around me seemed to grow thicker, heavier, filled with the weight of something I couldn't see, but could feel, crawling under my skin. Then came the sound, the faintest scratch, soft at first, just a whisper of a sound, but growing louder, claws scraping against the wood, the doorframe, the window, scraping, slow, methodical, relentless. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying that if I couldn't see it, maybe it would leave us alone. But deep down I knew that wasn't going to happen. It never does. "It's here. It's inside. It's in me." Javier's expression shifted. His lips were pressed together in a hard line, like he was holding back the tears, the panic that was threatening to rip him apart. But no matter how much he tried to mask it, the fear was there, raw and exposed. We were both trapped, not just in this house, not just in this place. We were trapped in something much darker now. The scratching stopped. Silence. but not the kind of silence that brings relief. It's waiting. I couldn't help the tremor in my voice as I spoke. Waiting for us to do something wrong, to make the next mistake. Javier nodded slowly, his jaw tight. We can't make a sound. We can't make a move until we know where it is. I swallowed, and the knot in my throat tightened. Every breath felt like a weight I couldn't shake, every heartbeat a loud drumbeat in the oppressive quiet of the room. The darkness had thickened around us, pressing in like a living thing, coiling tighter and tighter. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, to break out of this suffocating stillness, but there was no way out. We stood there, frozen, waiting for the thing to make the next move. We had no plan. We had no hope left. Only survival instincts, raw and unrefined. And deep down, I knew we weren't going to survive this. The thing out there. It wasn't just hunting us. It had already found us. It had already won. The silence dragged on, stretching out like hours, like days, each second heavier than the last. Every creak of the house, every shift in the air felt like it could be the thing moving closer, getting ready to strike. And then, without warning, the door rattled. A light bang. But it wasn't the wind. It was too solid, too intentional. Javier's hand shot out, gripping my wrist, pulling me back toward the corner. His breath was quick, shallow, and I could feel the tension vibrating through him. Stay quiet, he hissed, his voice a low, strained whisper. Stay still. But I couldn't. I couldn't stay still any longer. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt, and I could feel the heat rising in my chest, suffocating me from the inside. My legs were trembling. I could barely hold myself together. And then, another sound, soft, almost imperceptible at first, but it grew louder, a whisper. Elena. My name. But it wasn't Javier. It wasn't anyone I knew. It was low, gravelly, like someone, or something, was dragging its voice across my skin. My body froze, my eyes wide, every hair on my neck standing on end. I had to force myself to swallow, to push back the panic threatening to consume me. It's in here, I whispered, more to myself than to Javier. It's in this house, inside of us. Javier didn't answer. He was listening. His eyes were wide, his body tense as he scanned the dark corners of the room, the shadows growing deeper with each passing second. And then, another voice, but this one was different. It was a man's voice, soft, almost tender, as if trying to coax me. We were trapped in something much darker now. The scratching stopped. Silence. But not the kind of silence that brings relief. It's waiting. I couldn't help the tremor in my voice as I spoke. Waiting for us to do something wrong, to make the next mistake. Javier nodded slowly, his jaw tight. We can't make a sound. We can't make a move until we know where it is. I swallowed, and the knot in my throat tightened. Every breath felt like a weight I couldn't shake, every heartbeat a loud drumbeat in the oppressive quiet of the room. The darkness had thickened around us, pressing in like a living thing, coiling tighter and tighter. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, to break out of this suffocating stillness, but there was no way out. We stood there, frozen, waiting for the thing to make the next move. We had no plan. We had no hope left. Only survival instincts, raw and unrefined. And deep down, I knew we weren't going to survive this. The thing out there. It wasn't just hunting us. It had already found us. It had already won. The silence dragged on, stretching out like hours, like days, each second heavier than the last. Every creak of the house, every shift in the air felt like it could be the thing moving closer, getting ready to strike. And then, without warning, The door rattled. A light bang. But it wasn't the wind. It was too solid, too intentional. Javier's hand shot out, gripping my wrist, pulling me back toward the corner. His breath was quick, shallow, and I could feel the tension vibrating through him. "Stay quiet," he hissed, his voice a low, strained whisper. "Stay still." But I couldn't. I couldn't stay still any longer. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt, and I could feel the heat rising in my chest, suffocating me from the inside. My legs were trembling. I could barely hold myself together. And then, another sound, soft, almost imperceptible at first, but it grew louder, a whisper. "Elena." My name. But it wasn't Javier. It wasn't anyone I knew. It was low, gravelly, like someone, or something, was dragging its voice across my skin. My body froze, my eyes wide, every hair on my neck standing on end. I had to force myself to swallow, to push back the panic threatening to consume me. "It's in here," I whispered, more to myself than to Javier. "It's in this house, inside of us." Javier didn't answer. He was listening. His eyes were wide, his body tense as he scanned the dark corners of the room, the shadows growing deeper with each passing second. And then, another voice, but this one was different. It was a man's voice, soft, almost tender, as if trying to coax me. We were trapped in something much darker now. The scratching stopped. Silence. But not the kind of silence that brings relief. "It's waiting." I couldn't help the tremor in my voice as I spoke. Waiting for us to do something wrong, to make the next mistake. Javier nodded slowly, his jaw tight. "We can't make a sound. We can't make a move until we know where it is." I swallowed and the knot in my throat tightened. Every breath felt like a weight I couldn't shake, every heartbeat a loud drumbeat in the oppressive quiet of the room. The darkness had thickened around us, pressing in like a living thing, coiling tighter and tighter. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, to break out of this suffocating stillness, but there was no way out. We stood there, frozen, waiting for the thing to make the next move. We had no plan. We had no hope left, only survival instincts, raw and unrefined. And deep down, I knew we weren't going to survive this. The thing out there, it wasn't just hunting us. It had already found us. It had already won. The silence dragged on, stretching out like hours, like days, each second heavier than the last. Every creak of the house, every shift in the air felt like it could be the thing moving closer, getting ready to strike. And then, without warning, the door rattled. A light bang. But it wasn't the wind, it was too solid, too intentional. Javier's hand shot out, gripping my wrist, pulling me back toward the corner. His breath was quick, shallow, and I could feel the tension vibrating through him. "Stay quiet," he hissed, his voice a low, strained whisper. "Stay still." But I couldn't stay still any longer. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt, and I could feel the heat rising in my chest, suffocating me from the inside. My legs were trembling, I could barely hold myself together. And then, another sound. Soft, almost imperceptible at first, but it grew louder. A whisper. "Elena." My name. But it wasn't Javier. It wasn't anyone I knew. It was low, gravelly, like someone or something was dragging its voice across my skin. My body froze, my eyes wide, every hair on my neck standing on end. I had to force myself to swallow, to push back the panic threatening to consume me. "It's in here," I whispered, more to myself than to Javier. "It's in this house, inside of us." Javier didn't answer. He was listening. His eyes were wide, his body tense as he scanned the dark corners of the room, the shadows growing deeper with each passing second. And then, another voice, but this one was different. It was a man's voice, soft, almost tender, as if trying to scatter to sang over him. And only help a guy, the whispers crawled inside of me, coaxing me into trusting it. "Elena, it's safe here. Come to me. I gasped, a chill running down my spine. It was me, the voice. It was my voice. But it wasn't me speaking. Not anymore. The air felt colder now, suffocating. Like every breath I took made the darkness closer. My skin prickled and a cold sweat broke out across my forehead. The shadows pressed in, wrapping themselves around me, thick and suffocating. I couldn't see the walls anymore, or the door. The only thing that existed was the voice. And it was mine, but it wasn't. I reached out, my hands trembling, my body fighting against the weight of what was happening. The world spun in circles, and every inch of me screamed to escape, to break free from whatever had its hold on me. But my feet were glued to the ground. I couldn't move. No, this can't be real. Javier's hand shot out, gripping my arm with a force I hadn't expected. His breath came in short gasps, and his voice was tight with fear. Elena, listen to me. It's not you, it's not real. His words cracked, desperation lining every syllable, but his voice faded into the background, drowned by the louder pull of my own voice. The voice calling to me, coaxing me forward, promising safety. You're safe now. Just come closer. My heart hammered in my chest, the echo of the voice vibrating in my skull. My pulse raced, blood pounding in my ears, and I could feel the darkness shifting, thickening around me like it was alive. A part of me wanted to give in. I could feel it, like I was being wrapped in a blanket of comfort, though it was suffocating me, consuming me from the inside out. Javier pulled me harder, his fingers digging into my flesh, but my body refused to listen. I wanted to scream, to yell at him to stop, but I couldn't. The air had turned heavier, the very weight of the darkness pressing down on me like 1,000 stones. Every breath I took made it worse. Elena, come to me. My knees buckled beneath me, and for a moment I thought I was going to collapse. But instead I found myself standing upright, as if something else, something inside, was controlling me now. My limbs jerked like strings being pulled by unseen hands, and I started to move. I couldn't stop myself. Elena, no! Javier's voice cracked like broken glass, filled with terror. He tried to pull me back, but I was already too far gone. The grip of the voice was like a vice, pulling me closer to the thing, the shadows. I turned slowly, my body moving against my will, to face the blackness that had consumed the room. It was like the night itself had come alive, spreading across the floor and climbing the walls, twisting and writhing in unnatural ways. It wasn't just darkness anymore. It was alive. I reached the door. My hand went for the knob, but something inside me screamed, "No, don't open it." I froze. The voice had been telling me to come to it, but I was so close now, so close to opening that door. I could feel the presence, like something was waiting for me on the other side, waiting for me to make that final step. Javier? What's behind that door? My voice was a mere whisper, barely escaping my lips. I didn't want to hear the answer, but the question clawed at me like a wound that wouldn't heal. Javier's breath was heavy behind me, his steps slow and deliberate. The sound of his boots scraping against the floor made my pulse quicken. His voice, when it came, was hoarse, raw, like he'd been holding it back for too long. Don't open it, Elena. I swallowed hard, my hand still on the knob. The door felt impossibly heavy under my touch, as if the darkness on the other side was pushing back, resisting my attempt to open it. Quiet, strained. But I have to know. I heard him behind me moving closer, his voice sharp and urgent. You don't. You really don't. We're already too far gone. We should have left when we had the chance. But I couldn't stop myself. The urge to open the door was overwhelming, like a magnet pulling me in, and the voice inside my head, the one that sounded so much like my own, was whispering sweet promises of safety. Come to me, Elena. It's safe here. I turned the knob. The door creaked open and the air on the other side felt wrong. Cold. So cold. It wasn't the kind of cold that could be explained by temperature alone. This was something deeper, something ancient and unsettling. My breath hitched as I peered into the abyss beyond the door. It was dark. No, darker than dark. A void that seemed to swallow the light. And yet, I saw something in the distance. Movement. Shapes. Flickers of shadows that darted just out of sight. My heart hammered in my chest, each beat reverberating through the hollow silence. I stepped forward, my legs trembling, unsure whether I was being drawn toward the darkness or if I was simply losing my grip on reality. I could feel it pulling me, each step harder than the last, like the very ground beneath me was trying to drag me down into the abyss. "Elena, no!" Javier's voice cracked, filled with panic. But it was too late. The door was open now, and I was already stepping inside. The air grew colder still, biting at my skin, but I didn't feel the cold. Not really. What I felt was something else, a pressure in the air, a weight that pushed down on me, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. I could hear whispers now, low, guttural whispers, like 1,000 voices all speaking at once. It was the thing, the presence. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. It was there in the dark, watching me, waiting for me to cross the threshold. I stepped forward again, my foot sinking into something soft like sand. But it wasn't sand, it was flesh, writhing beneath me, warm and slick. The floor beneath me seemed to pulse, as though it were alive, and I could feel it breathing. My heart raced in my chest as I staggered back, my body trembling, my knees giving way. The cold seeped deeper into my skin, but it was not the cold I feared. It was the sensation of being watched, of being hunted by something ancient, something that had waited far too long to be seen. "What is this?" The words escaped me, but I couldn't comprehend them. My mind was too scrambled, too full of fear. The whispers swelled, a cacophony of voices overlapping, but none of them made any sense. They were warnings, threats, promises, all at once. And then it came again, the voice that wasn't mine, but that sounded too familiar. "Elena, come closer." It called to me from the depths of the room, but I knew better now. I knew that voice was not mine, not anymore. It was the thing in the dark, trying to lure me in, trying to coax me closer, deeper into its grip. I swallowed hard, my hands shaking as I reached for the wall for balance. I tried to focus on the faint light filtering through the cracks of the room, but it felt distant, like it was coming from another world entirely. "Javier, get us out of here!" I screamed, but my voice felt swallowed up by the darkness, absorbed by the presence that surrounded me. The flesh under my feet squirmed again, as if it were aware of my every move. I dared not look down, but I could feel it, a sickening sensation, like the ground was alive, breathing, waiting for me to step deeper into its embrace. "It's not real," I tried to tell myself, but the whispers, the pulling sensation, the weight pressing down on me, it was real, all of it. "We can't stay here, Elena. We can't stay," Javier's voice broke through the haze of panic. It was weak, but it was there. I turned toward him, my legs unsteady, and saw him in the dim light, pale, wide-eyed, a ghost of the man he once was. He reached for me, but I didn't move. My body felt too heavy, like I was being pulled down into something deeper than the earth itself. I took a step back, my foot scraping against the fleshy floor, and the room seemed to tilt. The walls pressed in on me, narrowing, suffocating. I was trapped. No way forward, no way back. "Javier, what's happening to us?" His voice cracked. "I don't know. But I can feel it, Elena. It's here. The whispers grew louder, the voices blending into one singular, monstrous sound. A chorus of malice, of hunger, and of something ancient. Something that had always been there, waiting, patient. It was no longer a whisper. It was a roar, an unbearable force that clawed at the edges of my sanity, dragging me into the abyss. I closed my eyes, trying to block it out, but the noise seeped into my mind like a virus. Elena, Elena. It wasn't just the whispers anymore. The voices were all around us, inside the walls, inside our skulls, weaving their way into every thought. Elena. It wasn't just the voices anymore. It was the air. The atmosphere around us changed. The weight in the room, the pressure was like 1,000 invisible hands pushing on my chest, forcing every breath out of me, one by one. My vision swam. My body felt light, as though the world was losing its grip on me, and I was about to fall into something else. Javier's hand shot out to grab my arm. I could feel his panic in his grip, tight and desperate. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated, his face pale. His breath was shallow, as though every inhale was a struggle. I can't breathe. His words trembled as they escaped his lips. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was suffocation. The very air in this place seemed to hold us hostage, each breath like a knife pressing into our lungs. The room was shrinking, the walls warping inward, squeezing us in like a vice. "What's happening?" I cried out, clutching my chest, as if I could tear the air apart, break free from its suffocating grip. But the pressure only grew. The whispers, the voices, they weren't just whispers now. They were becoming clearer, more distinct. They were speaking to us, about us. "You are not alone. You never were." The voice was so close I could feel it brushing against my ear. My blood turned to ice. I whipped around expecting to see something, anything, but there was nothing. Just shadows stretching, writhing, undulating around us. "No!" I gasped, backing into Javier, my hands trembling. This isn't real. We're..." A sudden noise interrupted me, a thud, like something heavy dropping to the floor, followed by the sound of something scraping against the walls. I spun toward the noise. My eyes darted around the room, and that's when I saw it. The shadows had shifted. They weren't just moving. They were forming shapes, solidifying, pooling into something tangible. A figure, a tall, gaunt figure, emerging from the darkness like a nightmare made flesh. Its shape flickered in and out of the shadows, but the features, they were unmistakable. The twisted, distorted silhouette of a person. It was wearing my face. My body froze, my heart stuttered. The room, the air, everything shuddered under the weight of that impossible form. It took another step, and the floor groaned, as if it was fighting the creature's presence. It was real. It was here, in front of me. My breath hitched in my throat, caught somewhere between disbelief and terror. It was me. It looked like me. No, it was me. But it wasn't me. Not anymore. The eyes were hollow, empty voids, glowing with an unnatural light, burning with hunger. I couldn't look away. My legs trembled, my knees buckled, but I remained glued to the spot, voice trembling, barely a whisper. No, this isn't real. But it was, and it knew. Low, guttural voice. I've always been here, watching, waiting. Its voice was wrong, not my voice but twisted, distorted by something dark, something hungry. It didn't just sound like me, it was me. It knew everything about me, the way I spoke, the way I breathed, the way I moved, and yet it wasn't me. I felt a wave of nausea roll over me, as the creature smiled. Its lips stretched wider, too wide, far beyond what was natural, until its grin swallowed up its entire face, a grin filled with jagged teeth, with the promise of pain. My chest tightened. The air was thick, too thick. I couldn't breathe. It was all around me, this presence. It was inside me, suffocating me. Javier's voice broke through the haze of panic, sharp and frantic. "Elena, don't look at it. You're looking at it, don't look." But I couldn't tear my eyes away. I couldn't. There was something compelling about it, something that made my body scream in resistance. But my mind was drawn to it, drawn to that empty gaze, that smile, the reflection of my own fear. What are you?" The creature's eyes blinked, slowly, deliberately, and the smile on its face grew even wider, too wide. My skin crawled. Soft, eerie laugh. "What am I? What am I? Elena?" It tilted its head, as if pondering my question, but there was no true answer, just a sinister knowing. I am you, and you are me. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just mimicking me, it was me. Javier's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. "No!" He screamed, "You have to fight it. You have to close your eyes, Elena." But I couldn't look away. I was trapped, anchored to the floor by the weight of its presence. Its voice was an echo of my own fears, my own regrets, my own guilt, every mistake I'd made, every lie I'd told. It was all there, swirling around me, reflected in the creature's eyes. It took another step toward me, its body bending in unnatural ways, shifting like it was made of smoke, flickering in and out of existence. It was both real and not real at the same time. My mind scrambled, struggling to comprehend what I was seeing, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break free from its gaze. It reached out, fingers stretching toward me, long and thin, tipped with claws that scraped the floor like knives on stone. The sound of its movement was like the hissing of 1,000 serpents, slithering, sliding, coiling in the darkness. "Please," I whispered, my voice barely a sound. But it heard. It always hears. The thing smirked, its face contorting in a cruel, mocking grin, and then it spoke. "Do you feel it, Elena? The weight of everything you've done? The pain, the sorrow? You can't escape it. You never will." My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a deafening drum. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but my body refused to obey. The floor beneath me felt like it was melting, the world warping around me, until there was nothing left but that horrible flickering figure. "Fight it, Elena!" Javier's voice cracked through the haze, a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't entirely alone. But even as I heard him, his words seemed to fade into the noise, drowned by the creature's voice, my own voice. I could feel it then, that creeping, gnawing sensation deep inside. The thing was inside me too, feeding on my fear, my pain. "No," I whispered, my mind fighting against the tide. "No, this isn't real." But the creature only laughed, a low, guttural sound that made my skin crawl. It was the sound of something ancient, something that had always been there, waiting. "You know it's real," it said, its voice now 100 times louder, echoing in the very marrow of my bones. "You can never escape yourself, Elena. You'll always be trapped in here with me." The world spun around me, the air thick with the taste of smoke and ash, my vision blurred, the creature's shape stretching and warping until there was nothing but darkness, pressing in from every side. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think, I couldn't move. The last thing I saw before I shut my eyes was that mocking grin, growing wider, stretching across the thing's face like a gaping wound. And then, nothing. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in that suffocating dark, but the next thing I remember was the sharp, searing pain in my chest. It was as if something had torn through me, a wound that no knife could inflict, deep, soul-crushing. I opened my eyes, gasping, only to find myself standing outside, on the edge of the porch. The sun was rising, casting pale light over the desert, but the darkness, it hadn't gone. It still lingered in the corners of my mind, a shadow that would never leave. My hands shook, my legs unsteady beneath me. Every breath felt like a struggle, like something was pressing down on my lungs, stopping me from filling them. Javier was beside me, but his face was vacant, hollow. He didn't speak. Neither of us did. We just stood there staring out at the desert, as if the vast emptiness could swallow us whole. "I thought it was over," I whispered. My voice was hoarse, as if I hadn't spoken in days. Javier didn't answer. His gaze was fixed ahead, unblinking, and I realized he wasn't looking at anything at all. He was trapped, too. Trapped in the same nightmare that was now my reality. "Javier, please, tell me it's over. Tell me we're okay." But he couldn't, because he knew just like I did that we weren't. It was inside me, inside both of us. It had been there all along, feeding on our fears, our guilt, our deepest regrets. It hadn't just taken form outside, it had become part of us. And no matter how far we ran, how fast we tried to escape, it would always be there, lurking in the shadows. I turned to Javier, my voice barely a whisper. "We can't go back, can we?" He shook his head, a single tear sliding down his cheek. His hands were clenched into fists like he was fighting something inside himself. "No, we can't," he whispered, his voice thick with sorrow. "Not after what we've seen." And that was when I realized with a sinking heart that we were forever bound to that thing, whatever it was, whatever it had become. It wasn't a curse, it was a part of us now. We'll never be free of it, will we? Javier didn't say anything. He didn't have to. We both knew the answer. The sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the desert floor. But even as the light grew brighter, the darkness stayed with us, like a stain on our souls. And so we walked, together, alone, forever haunted.